Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're talking about the best unlimited transfers team video for Gameweek 17, and there's going to be a few changes from the first draft video I've already uploaded on the channel. And also be sure to check out the team selection, which is already recorded. That will be with you shortly, and not to mention the Boxing Day deadline stream for Gameweek 17, and then all the usual content such as the reaction stream and many other videos will be coming your way, so be sure to check that out. The World Cup hangover is real for many of us, but we're going to still slowly but surely get back into the swing of things and get used to FPL once again. So be sure to drop this video a like if you end up enjoying it. And we're also trying to reach new goals such as 20,000 subscribers. That'd be massively appreciated. But let's just get straight into this video. If Kepa Arrizabalaga is fit, then I will go for him and Danny Ward as my goalkeepers, spending only around 9.5 million in this position. But if Kepa isn't fit and available, I have a few options. I can either go to Iverson and spend even less money in that position and just stick with Leicester City, or I could go a bit different and go for someone like Ramsdale, Jose Sarr, or potentially one of these kind of cheaper options like Raya or Sanchez. There's still Nick Pope as well, who I've had for most of this season, but I'm a bit less convinced about him right now, and I would rather double up on Newcastle defensively with Botman and Trippier if I were to go that way. But that's something I'm thinking about. Pope is still in kind of my consideration, but my ideal picks would be Kepa and Ward. Let me know your choice of goalkeepers down in the comment section below, but I think someone like Ramsdale, Jose Sarr could be quietly underrated, and they could also get the job done. 3 defenders remain from the first draft video, such as Ben White, Cancelo and Trippier. I think they speak for themselves. I know Arsenal have some pretty mixed bag fixtures, especially over the next 5, but Arsenal are still one of the best defences in the league, and I would have one piece of their defence, whether it's Ramsdale in goal or Ben White in the defence, and I don't think Saliba will be available just yet after reaching the World Cup final, so Ben White will do the job there, and he's already been assimilated into the Arsenal camp for several weeks now, playing some friendlies, so I think he's good to go really. Castagna is a new introduction, and considering how Leicester started the season, this would be a bit surprising to see Danny Ward and Castagna. Now, you're not going to play both of them at the same time regularly or too often. Maybe it's just a case of one or the other. And Leicester have been quite surprising. They've been keeping clean sheets or conceding very few goals when we least expected them to. But a dramatic improvement after the first 5 or 6 games where they looked like they could actually be relegated. And now we don't really have those concerns at this moment in time. And Castagna has the attacking threat, the bonus points potential. So I would go for him. And there's also obviously bad news with Leicester, with Justin being out for the rest of the season, and you've also got Ricardo Pereira out for a lengthy spell, so Castagna should be fairly nailed. It's just a case of whether he can stay fit and whether Leicester can keep up their defensive progress. The other defenders also include the likes of Joao Cancelo, who you could argue is a bit too expensive, and you might go for someone like Robertson or Trent, but Liverpool have a lot of away fixtures, and they've only won 1 game away, which was against Spurs, and they rarely keep clean sheets, and actually this season they haven't kept one away from home, so I'd be very concerned about Liverpool defensively in these away games. It's mainly those home games at Anfield where they could get the job done, and I would just rather go for Cancelo, and I think City will just keep on pushing, despite also a bit of a turbulent and congested festive period with some tough games in there. I still think Cancelo's a great option, and if you think it's too much money, then you could go for another City defender like Ruben Dias. I just don't think he'll be as nailed or get anywhere near as many points, including bonus points and also attacking returns. Then we've got Trippier. I think he speaks for himself. Newcastle, one of the very best teams in the country over the last year since Eddie Howe has taken over, and Trippier is a bonus points machine. He picked up 2 in Gameweek 16 despite having a yellow card issued to him, so I would just go for Trippier and keep it very simple. He's still worth that 5.9 million price tag. And the final defender is Luke Shaw. I've opted for him over Diogo Dalot at the moment because Diogo Dalot has now gone down to a 50% chance of starting in Gameweek 17. Man United just played against Burnley, a 2-0 victory for Man United in the EFL Cup, and Diogo Dalot isn't looking too promising. He's still having some issues, and Luke Shaw will definitely be available by Gameweek 17, so I would maybe go for him if you want a Man United defender. But defensively, they aren't maybe the best in the country, and they also have some key absentees such as Diogo Dalot, potentially Lisandro Martinez and Varane, so that could be problematic, but the fixtures are there, and I think United are improving under Ten Hag, and they will get back to a really high level, so Luke Shaw is a really good way into their defence if Diogo Dalot isn't fit enough in time for Gameweek 17. Leandro Trossard came off the bench against Charlton Athletic in Brighton's defeat in the penalty shootout of the Carabao Cup. Trossard missed the penalty himself, but I still think he's a good option, and he was criminally underutilised, I think, in the World Cup for Belgium. And he's got some good fixtures coming up, and he is the best Brighton attacker, period. He has scored the vast majority of goals under the Zerbi. So honestly, at that price and below, apart from Martinelli, possibly Rashford and Rodrigo, I think Trossard is by far the standout. Obviously, we're maybe excluding Almiron from that equation. He's probably the very best of the lot. The next up is Martinelli. We already talked about him in other videos. He could be out of position potentially, and whether he is or not, I mean, that's a completely different story. I think Arsenal will suffer as a result of Gabriel Jesus' injury. It will be detrimental to their season potentially, and it could affect Martinelli's returns. But if he's playing down the middle, he should get the bulk of the chances. And when he started his career at Arsenal, he got 10 goals in 12 starts, mainly playing as a striker in the Carabao Cup and other competitions under Unai Emery. So keep an eye out for Martinelli. He could actually go up to another level, but I'm a bit concerned about Arsenal offensively and how the whole team reacts to the injury of one of their key players. Next up is Mohamed Salah, who wasn't in my first draft, but he has been slowly but surely getting back to his old self with some really good returns. I know he blanked against Southampton in Gameweek 16, but still, just before that, he was showing a bit of consistency, and Salah is the best Liverpool asset for me, period. I know Nunez could challenge him if you want another attacker, but Salah is still the one for me. I know you could argue it's a bit too much money for someone you might not captain that often, especially with Erling Haaland in the equation, but I think Salah is well worth it, and you could easily build a freemium draft, and you can sometimes go a bit different with your captaincy, not just go for Haaland all the time. You can go for someone like Harry Kane, Kevin De Bruyne, or Salah himself. The other two midfielders include Almiron, who's the highest scoring midfielder in the game. I think he speaks for himself. He's very good value for money. I think he will continue his form, maybe not to the exact same level, but I think he'll show some consistency and get easily into the double-digit mark in terms of goals, and maybe add a few more assists along the way. And the final midfielder is Rashford, who scored an incredible solo goal against Burnley to secure the win for Man United in the EFL Cup, and I would go for him. And I know Rodrigo has been better up until this point in the season, but he's got some pretty tough fixtures, starting with Man City at home, whilst Rashford is going to face Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford. You have a very strong forward line despite having Greenwood in there as a facilitator and enabler. He will just be on your bench, pretty much always third on it, so he's not really someone to think about. He will allow you to get the likes of Kane, Haaland and Mohamed Salah. I think Kane could be a great kind of differential, and when I say that, I say a bit loosely because his ownership is around 27%, but as a captaincy option, I think that would easily get you some really big rank rises on certain occasions, because Haaland isn't always going to deliver, and if you just go for Haaland captain, it's going to be a bit difficult sometimes to make up ground, especially with so many of us having a similar team. So I think captaining someone like Kane or Salah could be your way into getting into the ranks you want if you are struggling at this moment in time. And Kane has some pretty decent fixtures. Some of them are a bit mixed, but the likes of Brentford, I could see Kane scoring goals. Even against Arsenal very soon, he always scores in that fixture. He finds a way, and I wouldn't rule him out in any sort of game whatsoever. So Harry Kane is in here. I think I'll go for him. I'll talk about this in the team selection video as well, but of course you cannot forget the likes of Bruno Fernandes and De Bruyne. And one honourable mention in the backline actually is Doherty, who's scoring a lot of goals in all these friendlies that Spurs are playing. So if you want a Spurs defender, just go for him, because the likes of Hugo Lloris will be missing out, Christian Romero, and more importantly Ivan Perisic from an FPL perspective. But Doherty could be your way into it, and he can get some attacking returns if he continues the rich vein of form he's showing. And Haaland speaks for himself. He could be your permanent captain, so to speak, but like I said, sometimes it's good to be a bit different, and it's not like you're going differential for the sake of it. Someone like Harry Kane is tried and tested, and he can do the job in any fixture and no matter what the circumstances are as well. So that's kind of the structure we're going for. Now let's hop over to FPL.team. I'd highly recommend going to that website to plan ahead for future weeks. I'm going to show you how we would line up specifically for Gameweek 17 and also talk about the captaincy. In this case, I would opt for a 3-5-2 with Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal, Cancelo, Trippier and Luke Shaw in the back line, Almiron, Martinelli, Salah, Trossard and Rashford as the midfield five, and then Harry Kane and Haaland up front. And the bench would be Ward, Ben White, Castagna and Greenwood. And to be fair, you could easily play one of White or Castagna. Maybe if you favour Leicester in the game against Newcastle, you could potentially bench one of your Newcastle players. But that's the way I would go about it, with Haaland as the captain, which might seem a bit contradictory to what I just said. But I think with the fixtures in mind, I think Haaland has the best chance of scoring from the kind of three biggest players in your team, Salah, Kane and Haaland. But to be honest, you could captain absolutely any single one of those three. And one key thing to note with Liverpool is that they're facing an Aston Villa side without Emi Martinez, and their second goalkeeper also, it looks like Olsen has a few injury problems, and then even their third goalkeeper could also be out. So that means they could put a 19-year-old goalkeeper, and that could be even better for Liverpool assets such as Darwin Núñez or Mohamed Salah. So maybe the captaincy could be put on him or Harry Kane against Brentford. I think Kane will be very well motivated after what happened in the World Cup, and I think he will bounce back in an incredible way. Remember, he's only blanked 3 times in this season, and if it wasn't for Haaland, I mean, there was absolutely nobody better in the first half of the Premier League campaign in terms of forwards. So that is the team we've gone for. Let me know your thoughts on the best unlimited transfers team for Game Week 17, and are there any differentials that you think deserve a mention or that you're going to go for? I'd be very curious to see. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 300 likes. Let's also keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. And you can also become a patron or a channel member. The links are in the description below. The same goes for the Discord server and the FPL League. So check out all the links in the description below. I wish you all the best of luck for this FPL season. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll see you next time.